Have you ever stopped to think about something that seems super simple on the surface, but when you start to dig in, you realize there's this whole hidden, complex world running just beneath? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do today.
So imagine this, you've built a great piece of accounting software, and you want to start selling it in Germany. How do you actually do it? How do you make it work for a German-speaking user? And the first answer that pops into your head is probably the obvious one, right? You just translate it. You swap out file for Datei, change invoice to Rechnung, and you're good to go. Easy peasy. Yeah, except it's not easy at all. The real answer, the way the pros do it, doesn't look like a simple word list. It looks more like an encyclopedia. The process isn't just translation, it's something much, much bigger.
Okay, take a look at this. This is just a tiny peek at the table of contents from a real manual for German accounting software. And just look at those page numbers. The whole thing is over 1,200 pages long. The section for Austria doesn't even start until page 383. Switzerland is way down at page 903. This is our first huge clue that we're dealing with something way more complex than just words. This is about localization.
So let's start peeling back the layers of this onion. The very first layer of complexity you hit is realizing that German isn't just one place. When you hear German, you probably think of Germany. But German is an official language for accounting in at least 6 different countries. Each one is its own distinct market, with its own rules, its own culture, its own way of doing things. You just can't use a one-size-fits-all approach. And this shows you the technical reality of that. Each country actually gets its own separate language file within the software. You can see there's one for Austria, another for Belgium, one for Switzerland. They're all distinct assets. So the question isn't just, how do we make it work in German? It's, how do we make it work for an Austrian user versus a Swiss user?
And get this is a direct quote from that manual talking about the Swiss file. It says, they still need to correct to formal German in a Swiss context. That one phrase tells you everything. It's not just about different words, it's about these subtle but absolutely crucial differences in professional language that can make your product seem credible or completely amateurish.
Okay, let's go to the next layer, because this is where it gets really interesting. When you're making accounting software, you have to translate more than just the words on the screen. You have to translate the entire language of money itself.
You know, on a high level, different countries follow completely different accounting standards. Germany has its own local standard, the HGB, but bigger international companies often have to use a global standard called IFRS. Your software has to be flexible and smart enough to handle both systems flawlessly.
And this is where it gets incredibly concrete. Just look at the tax rates. The standard value added tax in Germany is 19%. In Austria, it's 20%. And Switzerland is way off at 8.1%. They even have totally different reduced rates. Can you imagine the absolute disaster if your software only knew one of those? It would be totally useless to businesses in the other countries. And the complexity doesn't stop there. Even just within Germany, businesses use different standardized charts of accounts. That's basically the financial blueprint for a company. One system, SKR03, is built around business processes, while another, SKR04, is designed to mirror financial statements. And yep, you guessed it, the software has to support both. So we've looked at the country level and the financial level, but the real, painstaking work of localization happens when you zoom way, way in. This is where you see just how much dedication goes into getting it right. The devil is absolutely in the details. So check this out. This is the story of one little word that caused a huge mess. The original software used the word batch. Seems harmless, right? But it turned out the translators kept confusing it with things like an inventory batch. So the solution wasn't just to fix one translation, it was a massive software-wide project to replace the word batch everywhere with the much clearer accounting term journal, all for the sake of clarity. And it gets even more granular than that. Look at this tiny change. The localization team went through and added square brackets around button names inside warning messages. Why? Purely for visual clarity. It makes it instantly obvious that yes is a button you can click. It's a tiny, almost unnoticeable change that just makes the user experience that much better.
Here's another one. In the instructions, they replaced the simple dash and greater than sign with a proper arrow symbol and single quotes. Now this doesn't change how the software works at all, but it's about polish. It makes the whole thing feel more modern, more professional.
And this one might be my favorite, just because it shows the level of detail. They found and fixed a single spelling error, authentication to authentication. You might think, who cares? But this obsessive, meticulous work is how you build trust with your users. It shows them you care about getting every single thing right.
All right, so we've peeled back all the layers, from entire countries to tax laws, all the way down to a single misspelled word. Let's zoom back out and put a name to what we've really been talking about this whole time. This is the unseen engine of the digital world.
Here is the key distinction, the main takeaway. Translation is just swapping words. Localization is a deep, holistic process. It's about adapting a product so it feels like it was made for a specific market, respecting all of its unique legal, tax, cultural, and financial rules.
And what that means is that localization isn't just one job, it's a team sport. It requires the skills of a linguist, a lawyer, an accountant, a tax expert, a software engineer, and even someone who understands all the little cultural nuances to get everything just right. It's this incredible blend of expertise.
Think about it. Every time you use an app, a website, or a piece of software that feels perfectly natural in your language and in your country, it's because of this enormous, unseen effort. This meticulous, detailed work is the engine that makes our seamless digital world possible.
And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. We just peeled back the layers of a simple software translation. What other things in our daily lives seem simple on the surface, but are actually hiding their own incredible 1,200-page story of complexity?